there needs to be something done.
I hope the healing can begin for this community. It's going to be a long haul and changes have to be made.
There's a lot of just crying and, I don't know, apologizing, but like there's, it's really just sad.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Richard French, and thank you so much for joining us this Friday evening, December 21st. It has been a very long week, and today, a long day in Connecticut, a day of mourning, not just there, but across the country for the victims of last Friday's shooting in Newtown, Connecticut. Meanwhile, in our nation's capital, the National Rifle Association finally addressed the public about the shooting. And our senior political correspondent, Andrew Whitman, has more on that. Andrew?
Well, Rich, Newton's bells tolled 26 times, beginning at 9:30 in the morning today, which is when the shooting began last week. By 11 o'clock, the NRA had begun its press conference. They offered no new proposals to restrict firearms, but they did blame the media and violent video games.
Politicians pass laws for gun-free school zones. They issue press releases bragging about them. They post signs advertising them. And in doing so, they tell every insane killer in America that schools are the safest place to inflict maximum mayhem with minimum risk. We care about our money, so we protect our banks with armed guards. American airports, office buildings, power plants, courthouses, even sports stadiums are all protected by armed security. Yet when it comes to our most beloved, innocent, and vulnerable members of the American family, our children, we as a society leave them every day utterly defenseless. There exists in this country, sadly, a callous, corrupt, and corrupting shadow industry that sells and stows violence against its own people through vicious, violent video games. The only thing that stops a bad guy with a gun is a good guy with a gun. You know, 5 years ago, after the Virginia Tech tragedy, when I said we should put armed security in every school, the media called me crazy. But what if when Adam Lanza started shooting his way into Sandy Hook Elementary School last Friday, he'd been confronted by qualified armed security? Will you at least admit it's possible that 26 little kids, that 26 innocent lives might have been spared that day?
LaPierre said the NRA would pay for a task force to develop details for a national school shield. That's a program it says would train on armed security guards at schools across the country. Rich?
Well, thank you very much, Andrew. I'm very pleased to be joined right now by Kerry Kennedy, who is the president of the Robert F. Kennedy Center for Justice and Human Rights, and she's kind enough to join us here in studio. I saw a piece that you penned earlier in the week where you talked about the silence of the NRA and why they had been basically in duck and cover mode so many days after the shooting. After hearing the press conference today, I'm taking a guess, maybe you wish they stayed quiet.
Well, you know, I think that it's patently absurd to think that we're going to spend billions and billions of dollars arming every school, and by that by that philosophy, we'd also have to put an armed guard in every movie theater in this country, every house of worship in this country, every manufacturing plant in this country, and every place else that one of these shootings has taken place. What do you do about a place like Virginia Tech? Are you going to now put an armed guard in every dormitory, in every university, in every college campus in this country? It's a cynical move. They know it's cynical, and it's typical NRA, you know, being tone deaf after a massacre like this. But I think that our focus needs not to be on the NRA, but really on the solutions here.
It's not just the mass shootings. If you look on a daily basis in this country, there is an equivalent of a Virginia Tech or what happened in Newtown every single day across this country on an aggregate here. Do you think vocally and maybe in a coordinated fashion, law enforcement, the mayors, I've seen now educators talking. You have literally doctors on the front lines and the ERs that are talking right now. Do you think more voices, victims, et cetera, will create an echo chamber here? Or do you think it's going to have to be up to the folks in Washington to decide political calculations how much the NRA will or won't hurt the re-election efforts if you're in a red district?
Yeah, I think that the NRA is on the defensive right now, and I think that it is important that all these people from different walks of life are coming forward, and we have to continue to do that. This is, as President Obama said, this is in our hands, but there are things that we need to do that our legislators have to do. But there are also things that all of us can do in our daily lives. For instance, I've got kids. When someone wants to go on a play date, you can ask, are the parents home? Do you have food allergy issues? And do you have a gun? If you have a gun, is it locked up? Is it locked up separate from the ammunition? I'm a former gun owner. I made sure that my gun and that ammunition was locked up in different parts of my house. So, you know, almost 50% of the households in the United States are gun owners. We're not going to get rid of guns in this country, but we can do things to limit assault weapons, and that's what we really should be focused on.
In your piece, you made it clear that only those 26 families can really understand the acute pain as we see played out in just heartbreaking fashion with those tiny caskets all week long here. But you know, and your family, as much at least as any public family has in this country, knows loss. You've lost obviously your uncle and your father to a madman with a gun. And you make the point in your piece that while there may be healing, the pain never completely goes away. Talk a little bit about that.
Well, you know, this kind of killing leaves the work of love undone. And that can never be substituted by another human being when you've lost a parent or lost a child or a loved one. So there is a piece that never can be healed. You can grapple with it, but you can't heal it completely. And that's what these people are going to have to live with. But just think about this. From the time of my father's assassination and that of Martin Luther King, over 1 million Americans have died from gun violence. 1 million. What are we doing? Why are we allowing this to happen? And why are we foisting this upon our families, our neighbors, our schools, our places of work? It is really insanity.
And again, though, on a hopeful note, you think this time will be different. There will be real change out of this. Certainly the polls indicate that the public's had it.
Yes, I think you're absolutely right. And I think that the wall-to-wall news coverage has been helpful. I think, you know, once again, the NRA has shown that it's tone deaf after the Columbine massacre. You know, 10 days after that massacre, they held their national convention 15 miles from Columbine High School. And there were still kids who were in the hospital just blocks away from them. 7,000 people came out to ask them not to do it, and they did it anyway. So I think that Americans are saying, we want our rights to have our guns. We want to be able to take our kid and go shoot a rifle. And that's fine. That's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about assault weapons, weapons that should be used by our military. And I think there is a groundswell of support behind it. And we have to be vigilant. It's up to us to be vigilant and make sure this legislation passes.
Kerry, thank you very much. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
We're going to bring our panel in right after this quick commercial break, including former Connecticut Congressman Chris Shays. Please stay with us.